unlocking the codes, unraveling the DNA, the cosmic history, unveiled, the Galactic Maya, Wavespell, gene keys, synchronizing, the harmony as we rise and unite, the 144, hosted by Phinix Returns, Mondays and Fridays, 10:44 a.m. Eastern.
It is time in the no time. So thank you all for being here, whoever is finding their way to this galactic transmission in the perfect moment in time. I go by Phinix, born Alicia Marie, and it is my honor today to start to introduce the synthesizing of the Galactic Wavespell, the gene keys, human design, and really just the prophecy of the prophecy convergence that's taking place right now. You know, all of the prophecies that we've heard from many traditions and times and cultures really coming together in the now, and equipping ourselves with the knowledge, the wisdom, and the courage to rise up through the initiations that are being called upon us so that we can embody these crystalline codes, these angelic codes, avatar embodiment. That's what I'm here to help with. And so we'll have some videos to check out just to give you some of the basics. But I wanted to start off with an introduction and kind of like how I got here, why I'm here, and a little bit of my story and how I've been led to this galactic wisdom and being a transmitter and a translator of these codes to assist humanity in the awakening of the higher purpose in our genetics, empowering ourselves as sovereign beings to become health sovereign, mind, body, and spirit, in the midst of what I would call a final battle for our souls. It's very important to remember how to embody, integrate, and return to our original source, our eternal essence that we came from. So we're just waking up from amnesia that we are the angels as the roosters are crowing. And there are no signs of slowing, that we came here as the 144 soul tribe to assist in a planetary ascension. This is an invitation for all to return to the light and make things right. And so we first start to do that by helping ourselves in our own shadow work and our awareness of ourselves and our emotions, and healing the trauma that we carry through our family lineages, doing the hard, honest work of that transmutation, doing the genetic laundry, and returning to the mother. You know, healing the wound of the mother that we all carry as a mother or with our mother. Each one of us has a navel. That is the scar we all have, male or female, that symbolizes the disconnection from the mother from the moment that we come out of the womb. And so now we're connecting back to that galactic mother umbilicus. So I want to give you a little bit about me. I'm currently located at latitude 9, and I think it's important we all know the latitude that we're located at. I connect that to the gene keys, actually. But I'm living in Costa Rica, is what I call it. It's Costa Rica to most people, but I noticed that when you put Costa Rica together, it spells star in the middle. And I call this location the Galactic 0 Point. And it is the heart of the Americas. And I was born in the United States of America, in Fayetteville, North Carolina, at latitude 35. And yeah, eventually, through the course of my many years, I ended up in Austin, Texas in around 2005. And I started working for Dell Computer Corporation, where I was building the AI tech system before I knew what that was. Thought I was just serving humanity and getting technology out there so that families could connect across the globe. I didn't realize that I was a part of building the infrastructure of this AI data center beast that's starting to come out in the open, loud and clear. And so on May 10th, 2016, I was delivering my third child. And if anybody knows Wayne Dyer, I named him after Wayne Dyer. His name is Dyer. And I basically started having seizures and understood that I was dying and I was leaving my body. And I peacefully let go. I peacefully said, okay, it's time for me to go now. And I'm going to leave my 3 children with my husband. And that was it. It was just kind of a blackout for many hours. I don't know what was physically happening to my body structure in that time frame, but I eventually woke up in an MRI, and I was wanting to put me in a certain type of recovery unit, thinking I was brain dead, I believe, thinking I was not coherent. But as I returned to myself, I started to see the world with new eyes. I like to say that my X-ray vision was turned on. All of a sudden, I could start to see the things I couldn't see before. And that was an initiation point to eventually lead me into the understanding of ascension. And soon after that, my world became more like a observer. I didn't have so much of the spiritual knowledge and background to understand what was happening, but I knew that I was looking at my material success, my 4,000 square foot house, my infinity cars, my financial success, and my business. And all of a sudden, those things didn't really matter to me in the same way that they did before. And that was a bit of a shock to my ego, to my system. And so eventually, after looking through my eyes from a different perspective, I would say a more galactic perspective, but I didn't have the context yet. It eventually led me to selling everything, moving to a foreign country, and let's just say going down the rabbit hole. And surprisingly and shockingly, also leading me on an unexpected journey of a divorce, of a reorganization of my family unit, of a divine union, of another child. It all just happened so fast. And there was no slowing it down. I was in the total surrendered position to whatever I was being called to understand the integration of my new incarnation. And so I died on the table that day, but I kept my body. And so that's not so easy for the ones on the outside to observe and understand, because I'm still here and I still look the same, kind of. I've changed quite a bit. Even my body has been through physical mutations that the gene keys in human design talk about, that now I can look back and understand, like, oh, I was going through an ascension process. I was going through a genetic code upgrade. I was learning how to live more in the quantum field, the quantum mechanics field, working with timelines and working in the no time. And my body was going through a physical mutation. Things started to change in my physical structure. My sternum, for example, my ribs, my spinal column. And so, of course, in the old world, in the 2-strand DNA world, I'd run to the doctor and ask him what's wrong with me, but as I was waking up to this galactic perspective, I started to trust and understand my own body as a starship, and that it was going through a process. And I could trust that my body knew exactly what it was doing. And all I needed to do was nurture it and to connect with nature as much as possible. And that led me on a journey to leaving technology almost completely behind. I mean, I remember when I first came to Costa Rica, I remember going one day without my phone. And that was such a big deal. I posted about it with my friends. This was probably about 8 years ago. I moved to Costa Rica. Yeah, almost exactly June 18, 2018, somewhere around there. And so, yeah, I went one day without a phone, and I thought that was a really big deal. And then eventually my phone matrixed out with the green lines and everything. And I left the phone behind for a couple years. I still had a basic broken iPad, but most of my time was being spent in the mystery, in the cave, in the river, in the inner planes. And so when I first received my human design reading, I was told that I was a hermit, and I thought I'm a 2-4 hermit opportunist. And I remember saying, oh, I've never hermited in my life. And then all of a sudden, when I started to consider the idea and honor that, is when I started to access the cave of wisdom within myself. And the books have been burned of our ancient histories, and past history is a lie. And so we can't really count on much of what's been documented out there. And so we're invited to turn in and unroll the scrolls that are written in our DNA that can't be tampered with. But you have to have an honest heart and a seeking heart in order to discover the truth of your origins and who you are. It's very easy to be distracted in the external material realm and keep you from being able to dive into the depths of who you truly are. And of course, the system hasn't made it easy for anyone to actually spend quality time with themselves to get to know themselves. Most people don't know who they are and have not given themselves the time to understand that more deeply. Once we can understand the point of origin, of source, of where we come from, we can start to see the bigger picture of the family lineages that we came through, the things that we've gone through, the things that we've carried, and the things that we're willing to lay down for the greater good of the whole. And so it's been about 7 years since I discovered the gene keys and pulled my first profile, which you can pull your free profile at genekeys.com if you don't know it. We'll have some resources and some videos that'll come on to kind of help you with that, but feel free to do that. I offer galactic perspective, synthesizing, and readings of the gene keys, human design, the Galactic Maya Wavespell, and astrology. But yeah, that's what we're here for. We're working in the morphogenetic field. We're working with the genetics. We're working with the DNA. We're working with epigenetics. We're starting to understand that we're the ones we're waiting for, and to equip and empower ourselves with the divine DNA that is within our body. Some would call it the 12-strand DNA. Now, there are some arguable things about how astrology works with 12-month astrology and 13-month astrology, and we're here to synthesize it all, flower of life and crystal of life and like all of the symbols and things like that. We're here to integrate and heal the final fractures and wounds of the sacred text so we can understand that they're all here, they're all now, in the no time, in the no space, in the 12-month and the 13-month, but really in the eternal realms. We're just working with tools and resources to assist us in our planetary ascension. And so the gene keys, I see it like a language learning model. I do not use AI personally. I mean, technically I use a phone and I use Facebook. So those are really AI tools. But I have my feelings about it, and I understand that it's working for some people, and I also understand who created it. And so I like to stay as organic as possible. And yeah, I think that I understand that it's important for us to connect with our source and then infiltrate the system with the light and the truth of who we are, because it's getting a little confusing out there for people. And so it's important in these moments and times for us to rise up as guardians and to remember who we are and why we are here and what we came here to do, and to embodiment and to embody. Avatar embodiment is coming up. Avatar embodiment, angelic embodiment. You know, and to weave in the biblical revelations, especially where it talks about the 7 sacred seals and the 144,000 and the angels sounding their trumpets. The Gene Keys has a transitional language learning model as the revelations of the church come out about the truth of what's actually been operating in that structure, masked as God, but certainly not serving the whole. Service to self versus service to others, law of one is important. And the 7 sacred seals from Gene Key 22 is here to assist as a future mystery school to help us unlock those sacred seals. Thank you so much. So, think of where I wanted to go. Oh, I wanted to show you my book. Because, you know, so let's go back a little bit. Through all of this awakening and total surrendering, I'm cutting a lot out. I went through the near-death process. I left the big house, the big dreams, the American dream behind. Went through a shocking restructuring with my family. My children now live in the United States, something I never would have expected, that I would not be full-time present with my children at all times. And I feel like I've been on nothing short of a deployment of a different kind, you know, of understanding what's really going on in the galaxy, understanding war from a galactic perspective, understanding what my role is, what our role is, and equipping and empowering ourselves with the courage, the knowledge, the wisdom, the protection as we navigate this ascent. And the shocking things that are coming up on the planet that we're here to digest. And so I believe it's important for us to be responsible about our energy fields and understand what we're tuning to and what's coming into the field, because we are working with holographic realities. And, you know, I also like to say I ascended to heaven really quick, and it was non-duality and it was neutrality, and there was no good or bad and there was no right or wrong. And I utilized those principles to help me find my way home. But then from an all-seeing eye perspective, without the emotional attachment, I could start to be and not in denial or delusion about the operation taking place on Earth. And yeah, moving through any questioning about my role, your role, our role in doing this work and being a planetary service. And I started waking up every day, thanks to Wayne Dyer many years ago, saying, how may I be of service? How may I be of service? And then that started to go into, how may I be of service to all of humanity? And that heart's prayer has led me here. And so I highly recommend for any of you to start there. And I always say I surrender to the highest timeline for the greater good of all. Those are the types of shiftings that allow me to get more into service to others and the modeling and embodiment of the law of one, seeing things from a more galactic, holistic, collective perspective, understanding that ultimately everyone is me. And that leads us into the 16 that we're in right now in tropical astrology transits, which is the main karmic story that most of humanity is in right now. And so the 16 is the shadow of indifference. And I say indifference is ultimately about not giving a fuck about what's going on with anybody else. It's like, take care of yourself, take care of you, take care of your family. And I understand that way. I was wondering, hey, can you guys be a little more quiet? Thank you. Or talk in a different space. Thank you so much. Hopefully you guys are good there. Let's see what else. Just gonna read this because my book was open to it. Oh yeah, I wanted to show you my book. This is my Gene Keys book. I call it the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's falling apart, pages ripped out. I'm not sure even how I feel like I've been reading it for centuries. And yeah, so I never did. I left behind bank accounts, identification systems, all of the things. When it came time to become a Gene Keys ambassador, I didn't even have the actual identification or debit card to be able to pay to become an ambassador. I just became one, you know, and I really took it into more of a galactic ambassador perspective, like the evolution of the Gene Keys, and there are more codes to come. From a cosmic perspective, I also have a book called The Lost Octave by Robert Kummer that brings in more of the Sophia and yeah, the interstellar, interdimensional codes that we carry. And I want to be clear, one of the things I'm pretty passionate about as things are coming out about the idea of cosmic disclosure and looking for aliens in the sky and spaceships and things like that, we have access to all of the DNA of all beings and all histories within our own very vessels. And so the greatest misunderstanding that we have about ourselves is understanding our roots. And also, you know, in the field of non-attachment, and in the field of not getting too caught up in a story or an archetype, and really just allowing ourselves to be more quantum and more fluid. We don't get so attached to one identity or to one title, or I come from here, I come from there. But obviously, if we don't remember, we are stars. There's a lot of misunderstandings out there about who and what we are. And so the greatest threat to the darkness, and the first step is don't pretend that it's not there, because it is. You know, looking at the shadow, just like in our own personal individual shadow work, the only way to heal a shadow or do that shadow work is that you first have to acknowledge it exists. And so we do that on our own individual human level, and then we do that on a more planetary galactic level. So when I'm not in denial that it feels like there is a light and a dark going on right now, when I'm not in denial of that, then I can understand it more deeply and keep my heart open to my job and my role as an individual, your job and your role in serving the whole through transmuting this shadow. So my book's open to holographic, like the glossary of personal empowerment. That's what I love about these Gene Keys. It's empowering. It's empowering you to do the work, to own your shit, to be personally responsible, to get it done, to process the emotions, to be aware of the addictions, to be aware of the mental states, to be aware of the patterns, to become the neutral observer of yourself, to get really real about that. And ultimately, this process is really leading us into what is called a solar plexus mutation. Human design discusses the 2027 human solar plexus mutation as a process that we are here to go through, which is also ultimately a process of the emotional body, where we're no longer a victim of the emotions, where we're no longer blaming and complaining, where we're taking that personal responsibility and we're empowering ourselves as the ones to be able to navigate our own emotional field. And that was my first step of initiation when I came here. and I first read the book, Bringers of the Dawn, Teachings of the Palladians, it was radical responsibility for the emotions, for the processing of the emotion, for the observing of the emotion. And that's one thing I loved about the Gene Keys, is it could kind of put into words, your shadow states, and if you're more reactive or repressive. Some of us are holding it all in, and some of us are letting it all out. And so we are responsible for the energy that comes into our space. We're responsible for the processing and navigation of that. We're responsible for the energy that we bring in a room. That's how we start to be committed and devoted to holding the field high in the midst of all storms and working with what I would call 0 point energy. So, okay, this is the one I'm going to read. It's Homo Sanctus. Literally, the blessed human. Homo Sanctus is the new human emerging into the world, catalyzed by the great change. Homo Sanctus is the new genetic human vehicle. Although this new human may have the same genome as the existing model, it resonates from birth at a higher frequency due to subtle mutations that are taking place, primarily within the solar plexus system. These mutations allow the activation of higher coding sequences within our DNA, which essentially make the vehicle immune to the shadow frequencies. Homo Sanctus represents what many mystics have termed the emergence of the sixth race. It's called the Trivian human. A universal human who experiences directly the holographic unity of all beings through his or her solar plexus and heart. Homo Sanctus will emerge in the world gradually as a worldwide genetic mutation over many generations. The dawn of this new human will, in time, bring an end to the current age in which human beings have forgotten their true universal nature. So that's what we're working with here. And I'm so excited. I get excited. I understand that the importance is, in these times, is to gather the light together and to equip us with these pathways of initiation and revelation and awakening to the higher purpose, the higher mission, and how we are to be of service here on planet Earth. Because I've watched a couple things coming through my space about this dude Donald Trump as the president of the United States, and I'm not feeling like he's going to be the one, if you know what I'm saying. We are the ones. And so the 144 tribe, the 144,000, is not some elite chosen group. It's anyone who chooses to lay down their life and their lower nature to serve a mission greater than themselves. Anyone is invited to do that. Anyone is invited to seek the path of purity and service. And so that's the invitation, that's the initiation, and that's the celebration when we can all come together as the greater good to serve this planetary transition by holding these sanctity codes, by holding these purity codes, by activating these acidic states. And also I have this book here, the Magdalene Manuscript. And in the back, it talks about this, it has a little definition of the cities, because something cool about the Gene Keys is it has a shadow, a gift, and a city and the acidic frequency. These are, I sometimes say dimensions, the shadow is the third dimension. It's the fear and survival 2-strand DNA dimension. And then the heart space is the gift frequency. It's the breakthrough sphere that opens you up to the causal plane so you can start to dance with the higher and the lower worlds. And ultimately, we're working for the rapture, which is the purification of your lower astral body so that we can ascend into the fifth body, the Buddhic body. And that's where we start to bring in that group incarnation of souls. You could call it the Maitreya family. You could call it the return of the Kalki avatar. The Kalki avatar prophecy talks about the idea that there would be an avatar that returns, but this energy of this avatar would be so big and so powerful that it surely couldn't just be carried. This frequency could not just be carried and embodied through one being, but that it would be a family of light. And so that's the tipping point in the invitation of the 144,000 to hold that frequency field as a core fractal. And then we just take those zeros off and we work with that 144 number, that 12 by 12. To invite us to come in and sit at the round table and sit and counsel with each other and hold each other to the highest field that we can. That's what I actually call the Mary's Army of Light. Mary and Army are the same letters, and it's Mary's Army of Light, the 144,000, and it's anyone who chooses. Right? This isn't a personal importance thing. This isn't an identity thing. This is humility and service and purity at its finest. Service to others over service to self, without sacrificing yourself. It's important. But yet there are things that need to be sacrificed. There are attachments, there are things, there are old ways, there are old patterns, there are old mental patterns, there are old traumas that must be sacrificed and laid down in order to yield the shield of light. And I always say, Illuminati of the light, evacuate all parasites. The hungry ghost needs a host. And so, it's kind of like if you had a cut or a wound and little gnats or flies would want to come to that wound. It's important for us to be able to identify the inner wounds and the inner stories that are allowing those gnats or those flies or those parasites to come in and still manifest within us. It's all about healing the wounds within. The hungry ghost needs a host. It's through the pain and the trauma that the parasites can come in and feed on you and speak the stories. And so we can no longer give our power away to these forces, and this is where we're invited to build the body of light and what I would call the Phinix, and the idea that, ultimately, before any stories, before we were born in the timeless 0 point, we are a toroidal field of energy, always in motion, nothing can stick. This is the fire of the Phinix, it's constantly burning. This is the fire dragon. It's burning so fast and it's burning so high that nothing can stick to it. And that's how you become the eye in the middle of the storm that's operating through that still point energy, right? Where we're not being affected by the outer field. We're coming from the inner source and we're affecting the field. That ultimately leads us to the highest planetary service, is the frequency holder, the frequency carrier. Beyond any action, it starts there first. Getting fully reconnected with that 0 point energy and the free energy. The 16 is also about unlocking free energy. And I always say, I freely give, I freely receive. I have no constrictions. There's enough to go around. It just never stops. It's boundless, unlimited energy. I never run out of energy. I am in the eternal immortal realms. I understand and remember where I come from. And so you utilize the power of this fire and this awareness to actually transmute anything that is the old weight and the old density and the old trauma that's keeping you from rising. River, what's going on? What's happening? Okay. I'm going to read you this about the cities, and then I'm going to get my star brother Marcus is going to play an intro video to get us into the galactic wave of the Galactic Maya Zolkin Wavespell. But this is about the cities. The cities are yogic powers. These powers are of consciousness, cover a wide range of non-ordinary abilities. They include such things as clairvoyance, inner seeing, clairaudience, inner hearing, clairsentience, inner feeling, and clairgnosis, knowing something without knowing how you know it. These abilities also include the capacity to heal and limited powers of prophecy. Okay, the capacity to heal and limited powers of prophecy. The cities also include such truly unusual abilities such as bilocation, being in 2 places at once, teleportation, instantly transporting oneself over great distances, and levitation, floating in air. These powers of consciousness have been well documented in many of the world's religious and alchemical traditions, including Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, Judaism, and Taoism. In addition, many indigenous peoples report that their shamans also exhibit many of these abilities. And so this comes out of the Magdalene manuscript. And this is how I start to synthesize, the Magdalene manuscript is talking about the cities, and then the gene keys is carrying the code book of consciousness with the key codes and the recoding of the system of the 64 cities. And so it's even more fun when you pull your profile and you start to get an idea of your flavors, your star biology, your star codes before you came here. And so ultimately, we might utilize our profile to start to introduce and get to know ourselves through it, but we understand and remember that we're actually all the codes. We have access to all 64 codes, but we might have particular ones that we've chosen for ourselves before we incarnated. And that's what I believe and propose here, is the idea that you're coming originally from the source. You're deciding that you're incarnating in this very particular moment in time, and you're customizing yourself. You're choosing your character aspects. You're choosing the physiology and the amino acids and the star code imprints that you use to incarnate into this physical reality. And then at preordained moments in time, we gather together to start to unlock the truth of that mystery. And the words, it's beyond the logical mind. Sometimes people say when they dive into the gene keys that it's a little complicated for them. And so I say, follow your heart. Don't force anything. You can't force any information. You can start listening to this in the audiobook. There's an audiobook on Audible. I like to read on paper and underline and write and draw and things like that, but utilize what works for you. But sometimes for some people, it's just about like touching that fire and opening that up. And then you got to take some sips of water. So there's no rush in it. Be gentle with yourself, but also be prepared for an ascension process. Be prepared to come into the celestial fires coming into the celestial files and the celestial fires of transmutation. Okay, so I think we're good to, let's go with Marcus, the intro video of the Wavespell. We'll introduce you all to that first. This is the Galactic Wave. We'll have the intro video come on, and then I'll talk a little more about that.
Hello, magical beings. In one of my previous videos, I promised to talk to you about the structure of Wavespells. Wavespells, or adventure spells, are a standard fractal unit of measure representing a fourth-dimensional 13-tone cosmology, which looks something like this. The spiral form of a wave spell and its very name makes me associated with the sea and a wave, having a buildup of energy followed by a release. Wave spells can be used as a layout over any cycle of time, from 13 days, 13 weeks, 13 moons, 13 years, or 13 baktuns. Each of the 13 days of the Wavespell can be linked to one of the tones of creation we discussed about in a previous video. Each of the tones of the Wavespell represent a subtle cosmological sequence describing a process of ongoing creation. So each tone or each day carries certain qualities and questions which remain the same throughout every Wavespell, offering us a clear structure and meaning to the process. As I mentioned in the video about the lunar tones, a new Wavespell is set by the magnetic tone, the first tone. So that means whenever it's a magnetic day, a new Wavespell begins. The solar seal associated with the magnetic tone then becomes the theme of the next 13 days. The concept of a Wavespell also helps us to better understand the sequence and importance of the 13 days and the realization that, despite modern superstitions, number 13 is a sacred number. Our body has 13 main joints, 2 ankles, 2 knees, 2 hips, 2 shoulders, 2 elbows, 2 wrists, and 1 neck. There are 13 moons within a solar cycle. Each season has 13 weeks. 13 is also linked to the sacred feminine energy, which was suppressed by the patriarchal society, but that is a whole topic by itself, so we will discuss more about it in future videos. Going back to our topic, based on the 13 lunar tones, we now have 13 gateways or towers and chambers. The magnetic, overtone, solar, and cosmic gateways act as pillars of the Wavespell. The lunar, electric, and self-existing chambers are the ones to establish the base of action. The resonant, rhythmic, and galactic chambers extend the rhythm of action. The planetary, spectral, and crystal chambers convert our actions. And based on the meaning that each of the lunar tones has and the energy which they carry, each of these gateways and chambers are here to help us answer different questions, and they bring different energies into our life. The magnetic gateway is the one which identifies our purpose, the start of a new cycle, an opportunity for planting our intention regarding what we want to obtain from the next 13 days. The lunar chamber is the one which identifies our challenge. It asks the question, what are my obstacles? What challenges will this Wavespell offer me? The electric chamber is the one which identifies our service and asks, what is the service through which my goal will be attained? These days bring together intentions and awareness of our challenge. The self-existing chamber is the one which identifies form and asks, what is the form that my service will take? What is my action? It's a day for defining, planning, and mapping out your thoughts and organizing your time. The overtone gateway takes command and helps us gather our resources and asks, how do I get empowered? It's a day for really feeling and reflecting on all that you think you are. The rhythmic chamber commands equality and balance and administers a challenge and asks, how do I balance my challenge? Tune into your own rhythm and listen to it. The resonant chamber commands attunement and inspiration and attunes our service to our action and asks, how do I attune my service to others? Being the middle point of the cycle, number 7, reconnects us to the source, merging wisdom and intellect with feelings. The galactic chamber commands integrity, and it's where our action attains form and asks, how do I live what I believe? How do I invite integrity in my life? By liberating the self-censoring ego, proactive solutions emerge. The solar gateway formalizes our action and sets our action into motion and asks, how do I attain my purpose? At this stage, start connecting with your intentions. The planetary chamber manifests our challenge. It's where action and challenge meet. The time for manifesting perfection, and it asks, what do I have to manifest? How do I perfect what I do? Basically, it's the time for manifestation. Manifest and develop what you have learned with clarity and perfection. The spectral chamber is the liberation of our service, where action dissolves our service and asks, what do I have to release and let go? Re-examine and let go of what you know without judgment or resistance, making room in your being for permanent change. The crystal chamber is the cooperation of form, where all the round tables meet, where past action is formalized and future action is prepared, and it asks, how and what do I share with others? This is where the union of polarities takes place. And the cosmic gateway is where we take magic flight, and it's a time for closing the cycle, and it asks, how can I extend my love and joy? It's a day for celebrating everything that you have worked to accomplish within this Wavespell. You can align yourself to the energy of each Wavespell by identifying what you want to achieve with that energy. For keeping track of the energy of each Wavespell, I recommend you to follow the Galactic Mayan Weather Report on Facebook. I will leave a link in the description below. Also, each person has its own individual Wavespell, which helps them to better understand their hero's journey. This is established by tracking down the magnetic tone that came before us. So let's say you are blue resonant hand, resonant being tone number 7. To find your Wavespell of birth, you need to count back 7 solar seals until the magnetic tone, which in this case is the red dragon. So, if you are blue resonant hand, that means your Wavespell of birth, your purpose, is the red dragon. If you would like to find out what your Wavespell is, what your kin is, what your purpose is in this life, you can contact me either on my Facebook page or on my email. Until the next time, I wish you to have a day full of awareness. In Lakesh.
Yeah, I remember when I first heard anything galactic when I came here and I was handed the book Bringers of the Dawn Teachings of the Palladians. I was like, this thing is so crazy, but it's so true. Like, I don't want to tell anybody about it. And then the same thing when the Galactic Maya came in, same thing. It was like, I kept it to myself for a while because I was like, this stuff sounds crazy. I was really coming from one world to a new world very quickly. And I was recognizing my judgment and like my repression about my interest in this information and like not wanting to come out of the closet about it, like keeping it a secret. I don't know if anybody went through a phase like that as you're awakening and like diving into the depths and staying up late and reading stuff. And I think a lot of us have gone through a journey like that. And then eventually what I started to learn is it's like, why, this is who I am. This is my true authentic self. My memory is on. How could I not be the true expression of who I am and who I am remembering, and like being willing to open up to that. And so I tell you, when you go to pull your galactic kin for the first time, it says, welcome to galactic time. And you have a particular telepathic coded frequency or galactic signature, galactic affirmation. And it's not meant to be understood with the logical mind. It's a level of time travel code epigenetics where you read that and it starts to unroll the scrolls, so to speak, or unlock the storage of data, information, intelligence that you were born with and may have been suppressed or repressed. And so when I first unlocked mine, I found out that I was kin number 144, yellow magnetic seed. And so I understood, I like what she said there, you find out the magnetic tone of the wave that you're in. And that's kind of that's the essence of your hero's journey. And so the seed that I carry, the 144 seed that I'm carrying, is here to inform, carries the mysteries of Atlantis. It has to do with the 144 in particular, uniting the soul tribe. And so we're in the process of doing that now. That is my mission. And I welcome you all here, and I honor you all for the service that you've come into and the work that you've done and the things you've had to traverse to get to this point, so that we can remember as a monad, remember as a cosmic family, the truth of who we are. And so, yeah, pull your report. I do offerings by cosmic donation. It would be my honor to start to decode this work with anyone who feels called. I like to follow this every single day. This is the idea of these waves of time, is a way to understand the cosmic nature of our reality. I started being catapulted into there is no such thing as time. The fourth dimension, in fact, is the clock, is time. The fourth dimension is time. That's the gateway that we have to go through in order to start to unlock our origins. And we break out of the 12 to enter into the 13. And there's a premise of the Galactic Maya that talks about the 1260 dimension of, which is like 12 months and 60 minutes, which is the time is money dimension. And then we're breaking out of the 12, moving into the 13. It's the 1320 dimension. And the 1320 dimension is moving from time is money to time is art, and ultimately restoring the earth through the art that we are. And I have this vision of something called the Da Vinci Code, where ultimately everyone has their basic needs met, so that they can serve humanity in the way that they're designed to and they're called. And that's a lot of the struggle and tribulation on the planet right now, has a lot to do with the unsustainable reality of money, resources, water, food. Yeah, what are we going to do about that, right? I mean, there are many, we will all be called into many dimensions. There's a stairway to heaven, and just being able to be invited and be the full authentic expression of yourself in every now moment that you get called into. And so as a time traveler, sitting in the stillness and the no time and the 0 point, the way that I look at this reality is that there is no yesterday, there is no tomorrow, there is only here right now. And every day has a different essence. And when you start to realize that, you start to realize that tomorrow might not have a consequential connection to what happened yesterday, because you're working with different energies every single day. It starts to help you understand working with time and timelines in a new way, and starting to really learn how to work in the no time, no space, which allows you to come into synchronization and synchronicity. So none of us come here by accident. None of us come together to speak of these topics by accident. I see everything so deeply mathematical and preordained and predetermined in a mathematical way, a cosmic story unfolding, prophetic characters unfolding in the cosmic play. And when we start to have a deep understanding of that, we start to learn how to relax, how to trust, how to remember, right? How to breathe, how to love, how to witness, how to observe, how to have that compassion. Yeah. And so that's where we surrender to the highest timeline for all. And that's the timeline I'm playing in. And that's what I invite everyone that I come into contact with to, as a destiny oracle, to come into unlocking your destiny and remembering. So, okay, this is the tone of today, just to give you an idea, okay? So we're gonna read this. We are on pin number 174, White Overtone Wizard. And the galactic affirmation is, I empower in order to enchant, commanding receptivity. I seal the output of timelessness with the overtone tone of radiance, and I am guided by the power of spirit. And a little more about this, we're in the Wavespell of the white dog. The magnetic tone of this 13-day cycle is white dog, which has the essence of unifying in order to love, attracting loyalty and power of heart. Yeah, the white dog is about compassion, love, loyalty, service. And so that's the 13-day cycle we're in. And we're on the 5th day of the cycle. And in the video, she had talked about how the 5th tone, the overtone cycle, takes command, gathers resources, and asks, how do I get empowered? And that's what today is all about. And let's see, I'm gonna look a little, can you go down a little bit, Marcus, to the cycles? And I'll break this down for you all a little bit, just to give you an idea where it says cycles under the affirmation. It says NS1, which means new serious cycle 1.38.12.3. These are the cycles of time that have been counted for a long period of time in the no time. And then this just gives you an idea, the solar ring of the yellow resonant seed, kin 124. Wow, that's interesting. It's date 311 because I got the number. Oh my God, holy shit. Interesting. Okay, I love number syncs. Okay, so this is how it works, because I already got the number 311 today when I was looking up the gematria for Palantir. The Hebrew gematria for Palantir is 311. And so here's the 311. This is how I know we're in the galactic synchronization of time. Yeah, Palantir, if you know, then you know what's going on there. And time to come together and rise. The harmonic 44 is the resonant output, which I also connect to gene key 44, which is the coming of the synarchy, which is a new form of human government. And it monitors the migration patterns of humanity as we are awakening and different people are being called to certain locations. Today we're expressing intelligence of attunement. And that's what I would ask, is that we allow ourselves, get in that. I'm always spine straight. Get that spine straight. As you are a finely attuned instrument of God, allow yourself to be attuned and allow yourself to be a tuning fork. So we are the tuning forks across the earth as the cosmic carriers, the pillars of light. We're activating the planetary heart grid with each other, which is connected to your thymus gland. Right, so allowing us to be a finely attuned instrument of God. I say God is galactic, ordering, dynamic. Everything is number, God is number, all is number. That's how I've been able to understand the transpersonal nature of this reality. Understanding that each and every person is playing their role and their piece and their part. And also the invitation that there are many levels, there are many frequencies, there are many dimensions. And I believe that there are people that want to get up out of that underworld. And so that's what we're inviting people into as we return to heaven. If heaven is at hand, heaven is within, as within, so without. And in order for heaven to actually come down on the earth plane on a collective field, because it's cool to hold it within yourself. That's step one, right? Be the heaven holder. But then to actually manifest it on earth as it is in heaven, there's some work to do. And that's where the purification is upon us right now, that we're being called into the purification process and the purification of the lower nature. The purification of our addictions, the purification of our desires, the purification of the impulses, and just really taking the commander seat in your starship and not allowing anyone or anything or any technology to have power over you or your soul or your consciousness or your mental plane. Let's see what else is going on. Chromatic 63, White Wizard Mirror. That's Sacred Seal number 6. The City of Truth. Yellow Southern Castle of Giving, the Court of Intelligence. Heart refines giving. You don't have to know what all of this means. It's just turning on the galactic coding system. It's turning on the sacred computer, the sacred star architecture that you are. Right? So here's the galactic tone. I love this site. I don't use this stuff so much, and it's so nice to see it and how it lays it all out here that we're on galactic tone 5 over tone. The power is to empower. Yeah, so feel free to go to 13moon.com. I can't remember the website of this one. You can go to 13moon.com. You can go to Law of Time. There's a lot of data and information out there. You can download the app to keep time on a daily basis. Yeah, this is the 13 moon synchronometer. This is the measure of synchronicity. Oh, and we're on day number 151 today. It's my grandmother's birthday today. Talk about galactic synchronizations. I was born kin 144. And then my grandmother, when I started decoding the mathematics of the universe with this information and understanding that there was a much more synchronized creation going on here, yeah, I started to put together patterns of the mathematics. My grandmother, whose birthday is today, she was born June 1st, 1944. She's the same kin as me. She's also 144 yellow magnetic seed. So I really understand that we came through a generational line to bring the 144 mission through. She's so sweet. She lives in Texas. A lot of my family lives in Texas, my mom and dad. My oldest son, Lawson, just graduated. He's 18. It's crazy because I left that world behind. It wasn't long ago, well, it was 8 years ago, that I was making the decision, hearing the call to get out of the tech, get out of the money, get out of the It wasn't out of fear. It was out of like leading and steering. And it was only an inner knowing. I put so many more pieces together, but I had to surrender to that call. I remember being like, oh my God, I'm going to leave behind the Friday night light and the proms and the graduations. At the time, you know, I thought my family would be staying with me in Costa Rica. They did for a couple years, but then we went through the divorce and the transition, and it was time after everything happened with the lockdown for them to go back into the United States. And I trust that we're all in our positions and our places to do what we came here to do before we were ever born, my children included. And I carry on the memory of not forgetting the truth of that. Thank you. That there is a mission at hand, and it is for the future of all of us. It's for the future of our children. It's for the future of the planet Earth. And universal salvation is what Eduardo just said. So I guess I'm ready to jump into the Gene Keys video, but are there any questions? Does anyone have any questions? Are you able to see that? If they do, Marcus, and let me know. I don't know if anyone's on or interacting, but I wanted to open that gate up in case.
Yeah, I'll let you know anytime that there's questions, and I'll pull them up on the screen.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, anyone feel free if you have a question or something to share, drop it in. And let's go ahead then and roll into the Gene Keys, the intro to the Gene Keys video.
It was in 1996. I was in my late 20s. I was living in a small cottage in south of England, and I woke up one morning into a higher state of consciousness. It was as though my whole body was just a field of light. And it was out of that state that lasted 3 days and 3 nights that I was moving through the cosmic field of truth. Extraordinary things were revealed to me in that time. Essentially, the Gene Keys are this code that you contemplate, and as you contemplate it, it starts to come alive inside you.
What I did is I went into these 64 facets of consciousness that at a certain point became known as Gene Keys.
A siddhi is a Sanskrit word for a kind of divine gift or an enlightened expression of consciousness. So there are 64 words for the gifts, and there are 64 words for the siddhis. In this particular lens, conflict teaches you how to be diplomatic, how to approach another in your relationship with more kindness, with more empathy, how to listen, how to take responsibility for your own actions and not blame others, and all those things that we learn when we learn the art of diplomacy. So peace is hidden in conflict, and the real purpose of conflict is to teach us to come back full circle to peace. That's how each Gene Key operates inside us, and we have a whole panoply of these frequencies that are available to us.
As I went deeper and deeper into these threads, these sequences, I realized that it was like traveling backwards in our awareness. So you have to go backwards in time, step by step with your awareness. And it's a bit like unlocking a safe, but actually if you're really contemplating, it's a living experience.
It is an inner attitude that we have to awaken first, and that's what the gift is. It's the creative response to the shadow, to the suffering. Anyone that can take responsibility for their shadow states is in a very healthy place. And then finally, that flowers into the siddhi, boundlessness, the ultimate adventure.
Oof, boundlessness, the ultimate adventure. That's Gene Key 35, by the way. What do you need for? Oh no, I can't help you with that right now. I'm just doing this video right here. Thank you so much. Ask Papa, okay? All right. So this is welcome to the Gene Keys. Like I said, it comes in layers and levels, right? It's like once you unlock this information, it's like a galactic synchronization. It's opening up the higher purpose in your DNA. And it is the code book of consciousness here to empower you if you so choose. And in order, we're the ones that have to pull ourselves out of the holes of the depths of anything that we get pulled into and the old stories in order to arrive into the boundless state. And that is the invitation and the celebration is that these gates are open. And the work is in the timeless realms. You know, the form, our physical form follows frequency. When I started to understand that, I devoted my time to understanding the inner worlds and the frequency fields and starting to work more in those dimensions versus treating and addressing everything from the physical realm. And so that was a practice that I started to be encouraged to do. It just came out of me naturally, to take everything into the inner planes and to be able to recalculate and reprogram myself. And actually, I still have a podcast out there. After my husband and I went through our conscious uncoupling, our divorce process, it was not easy, but it was the transition that we made it as easy as possible. It was a beautiful 14 years of marriage and 3 children. And after we went through our divorce, we did a podcast together called "You've Been Programmed." Vibrate into a new reality. And there's still a few of them out there. A lot of them were taken down just because we didn't like renew the site or whatever, but you can catch a couple of us. And I thought it was so beautiful that we could talk about our life and the programming of humanity together after a big shift like that. And so the Gene Keys was a big part of it. Actually, when I first started with that podcast, I wasn't openly talking about the Gene Keys, even though they were turning my life around very quickly. It wasn't something that I was willing to bring out in the open too much. It was just the beginning. And now I love to dive into these codes with anyone who chooses to activate, galactivate, invite these depths of consciousness into themselves and to embody. You need as many people in the Homo Sanctus fields, the Trivian humans, the 6th root race, and the Pangaian race, the 7th root race, in the form in this moment in time. And there's also a video called The Avatar of Synthesis. Oh yeah, Marcus. Soon I'll read the 16. No, River, I cannot talk to you right now. Thank you so much. The Avatar, there's a Gene Keys video called The Avatar of Synthesis with Richard Rudd, and I want to share that if possible at the end here. Let's see, but right now, let's go to this Gene Key. Will you pull that up close again for me, Marcus? All right, so check this out. Like you can see this as like a template. You know, it's almost like an eye in the center. It's got a hexagram around it, which represents the 6th line. And around the circle in the center, there are many hexagrams, which are open and ones and zeros in binary code, basically. No, baby, please, please, River, please. Okay, so sorry, my daughter's here for a minute. She's asking for stuff, but okay. So this is Gene Key 16. We're currently in the transit of this key in tropical astrology. And so, River. No, thank you, baby. Okay. As you can see here in this central focal point, we've got different colors going on. I want to take you to the red. The red is the shadow. The green is the gift, and the blue is the Phinix state. And so it's through the poetic genetics of understanding these codes that we start to unlock the hidden truth. And so just by looking at this, you can kind of see genetic code, codons, DNA. It's connecting to amino acids. It's connecting to a physiology. It's the parathyroid. Each of these codes this is how we bridge science and spirituality. And so just by looking at this, it's not even about having to understand anything. These symbols and codes start to turn on a level of memory within yourself. And it starts to become a template for the new languages of understanding our astrobiology. And so we're the 12 and the 13. The gene keys is calculated in tropical astrology. And so I like to say, when I do sessions with people, what I like to do is also break out your Chiron wounds and your ascension, your ascendant code, and decode that in the gene keys so that you can read it like a book, so you can read it like an adventure. Like my Chiron wound is Taurus, 25 degrees. And so I know that that's gene key 8. It's a Palladian code. It's connected to the thyroid and the Adam's apple. And now I can go and I can read my Chiron wound in a gene key story, and it can start to reveal and unlock the shadow. Like for me, that shadow, my Chiron wound is the shadow of mediocrity. And it's ultimately the gift is of doing things with style. And then in the highest form, it's the exquisiteness, moving beyond the comfort zone. And it has to do with communication and sounding your truth. And moving beyond the mediocre fields of the standards and traditions that we were born into. And so that's an awakening code for all of the planet right now. Like I said, you're all the codes. We just utilize a particular entry point of a neutrino imprint to break out of the Chiron wound into the ascendant. And so then we break out your ascendant in the gene keys. My ascendant is gene key 55. It's the Dragonfly's Dream Prophecy. It's the first gene key that I recommend that everybody read. You can find it for free in print online. And it's the Freedom Code 55. Freedom Fighters, Freedom Flyers, Dragonfly's Dream. It talks about the root races. It talks about new forms of government. It talks about new forms of science and education and the sacred couples. It talks about healing the victimization of the emotional plane of blaming and complaining. And it talks about the solar plexus mutation that we're moving through right now, and really gives us some context and some clues as the code book of consciousness and the book of life. In Revelations, it says that there will be another book, and it'll be called the Book of Life. And then it references 7 sacred seals and 144,000. I call the gene keys the Book of Life. I call the Bible the Book of Death. It's nothing but death in there. It's death and sacrifice of animals and sons and man, and anyone that says that they're the son of God ultimately is hung on a cross. And so, yeah, that's the book of death. Those stories, you can quote those verses and do the things and read the cryptic codes all day long. The question is it empowering you to embody the Christ within yourself, or is it not? Because this thing's been around, this book of death has been around for 2,026 years, and our world is dying, right? So the transition from the death to the birth to the life, this is the book of life. These are the keys. All right, let's see that one. The 55. This is the Dragonfly's Dream. And the north node of humanity moved into this key. It's the I Ching of abundance, thunder over fire, connected to the amino acid of histidine, connected to the physiology of your solar plexus. And then you look at the great unlocker. So over on the right is the programming partner. And what I would say is the opposite. And you can't have one without the other. So that's the other thing, is coming into the awareness of the opposite code that actually unlocks it. So I always say, and that's gene key 59. And that's the code of transparency, from the shadow of dishonesty to transparency. And it's connected to the physiology of the sexual organs. And I always like to say transparency unlocks freedom. So for the collective tropical, the North Node is the 55. It is the dragonfly's dream. And the whole idea of the dragonfly, it's talking about this mutation. And I want you to imagine, Richard Rudd speaks of the idea of, you know, the dragonfly is born an underwater nymph. And so it's in the underworld, you could say. And then one day it spontaneously comes out of the water, stands on a rock, the sun hits its back, and poof, you know, those wings pop out of the back. And that's the mutation in the blink of an eye, in an instant. And so that's the mutation that we're going through. Could you imagine that we're going from one world to another world just like that? And that's what we're being invited to do, and to go through the eye of the needle, and to come out on the other side, to cross over the rainbow bridge, to know that that gate is open. And so then we have something called the codon rings, which you can see over on the left-hand side, the codon ring of whirlwind. There are certain chemical codon formations that come together to make more of the collective story. And that's when we start to get into an understanding of the quantum mechanics, the plasma fields, and the synchronicities of how we're all coming together in synchronistic forms and unifications to understand our roles, missions, and purposes. And while the great galactic reunion, the star nations coming together and remembering our role and our mission. So, okay, what else do we need to talk about here? What do we need to talk about here? I think what we could probably do is read through the Gene Key 16. At least I want to read through some notes of it. I might read the whole thing. Sometimes I used to do this all the time. Every week I would gather and I would read the gene key that was in transit, and we could just like hold that code and process our shadow in that code and uphold the highest virtues of that code. And let's see this Gene Key 55. Oh yeah, let's go back to the 16. Hold on a second. So, and by the way, this is one of my favorite resources that Marcus is showing you right now. This is the Gene Keys Living Library. So if you have like a favorite number, if you have a number that speaks to you, there's 64 codes. You go to the Living Library and this is the first thing I tell people when they pull their chart too, to kind of get the cliff notes about yourself. You can go to the Living Library and pull up each of your codes and click on those numbers and start to unlock information and look at those templates like you just saw. Those are like the galactic DNA tiles, right? So you can go in with your chart that you've pulled and the spheres of your profile, and you can start to click on each different number and start to learn a little more about yourself, the sign that it is in astrology. You know, this one's the victim of techniques. That's such an interesting thing too, the victim of techniques, you know, because you can do a bunch of yoga, you can do a bunch of meditation, you can do all your technique, breath work, you can do your breath work and your techniques and your practices. But the truth of the matter is, if you can't handle
eyes closed, floating on a lake, sound vibrating through your bones. This is summer solstice. Hosted by Sacred Kingdom Community, the Summer Solstice 26 Ascended Masters Retreat is an intentional healing of the divine masculine, balanced with the feminine, to honor Father's Day weekend. 4 days of embodied teachings, ceremonies, and live music in Ohio's Zaleski State Forest at Lake Hope, camping under the canopy, vegetarian brunches and dinners included, a sober, safe container to be vulnerable, supported, and real. Guided by shamanic space holder and producer Marcus Crystallite of Sacred Light Healing and Wellness Sharing Cacao, Galactic Pioneer Wisdom, and more. Sacred Space Holders. Priestess Jessie of Sacred Phinix Sisterhood Circle leads ecstatic dance. Kat of Kat's Treasure Tree journeys into shadow with an Anubis obsidian aerospace. Kirsten of Mama K's Creations teaches dreamcatcher weaving. Twin Moon Sisters Cheyenne and Victoria offer a floating sound bath on the lake. More sacred spaces to be announced. Live music by Aura de Prophet, Evan Sturgeon, and Cricket to Gift. Bring a kayak, paddleboard, or floaty for the lake, and free time to drift whenever you feel. June 1922, 2026. Ages 12 plus with adult. No drugs or alcohol. Tickets, $99 for a single day without stay, or $333 for all 3 days with stay. Register via the Jotform link or QR code, or email marcustut23@gmail.com with questions. Come meet your tribe.
It's in these times we know we're never alone. Where there's a will, where there's a will, there's a way, there's a way. Yeah, the change was coming is here today.
We coasting with potion, high five to the ground, bitch, we chosen. Silly, got the flow like the ocean. Can't escape when your brain is eroded. We got that light, chakras hella bright. Check my triple sight. Yeah, you know we consciously. We got that light, chakras hella bright. Check my triple sight. It has been written that we are ascending, 'cause we're the descendants of the source of all existence. Yeah, it has been written that we are ascending, 'cause we're the descendants of the source of all existence.
Our founder claims. This right here is an embodied form of the violet ray spectrum. Tap in and tune in Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern. Live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Grand Rising with Crystal Light. Your sacred space for discovering the Ascended Masters in crystal healing. Ashe.